Not the Manhattan the Mets are used to. That's Manhattan Beach. About a half-hour drive, depending on traffic, from right here at Dodger Stadium. We'd give you the weather graphic, but it seems kind of unnecessary. You know it. Got to be about, what, mid-70s?
Beautiful.
And a very pleasant night. The Dodgers have taken the field. And on 9/9/99, let's meet the starting. Yeah, 9 for the Mets. Brought to you by Zima. Ricky Henderson, at 40 years old, the leadoff left fielder. Edgardo Alfonso playing second, batting second. John Olerud is at first, and then, of course, it is Mike Piazza having a great year. He is a New York Met catcher. Robin Ventura, another offensive force. Darrell Hamilton, the former Colorado Rocky. Roger Cedeno in right, the former Dodger. Then Ray Ordonez at short, and welcome back, Orel Hershiser. He'll be the number 9 man in the order, of course. And opposing Kevin Brown. Here's the scouting report.
Great matchup against Kevin Brown. Hardest sinker in baseball. That's because he throws that thing in the low 90s, where most sinker ballers are in the mid 80s. He'll drop down occasionally on the right-handed hitters. Likes to throw from different arm angles. Great athlete on the mound. Very, very good fielder. Sometimes he gets in trouble because he tries to barehand those comebackers. That's the only complaint that you have against Kevin Brown. But he's a super athlete and doing a great job. Has not lost since July the 5th.
Maybe baseball's quintessential ground ball pitcher, and what he wouldn't give to have a double play combo like the Mets with Alfonso and Ordonez. Here's what he settles for. We'll take a look at the Dodgers defensively, and up the middle it is Grudzielanek and Young at short and second base. Adrian Beltre plays third. Eric Harris is at first. Todd Hundley, the, of course, one-time New York Met, still working on this, and it has been like a track meet, as you can imagine. If you're sitting at 13%, well, you're going to get people running around on you. Davey Johnson knows what he's up against behind the plate. He just hopes that Todd Hundley's bat can make up for the defensive shortcomings, or maybe better stated, the arm.
Well, you're right, because the Mets like to run. They hit for home run power, they hit for average, but they're also 5th in the National League in stolen bases. So you can bet Kevin Brown's going to have to go quick to the plate to try to give Hundley some help, especially with guys like Ricky Henderson and Roger Cedeno.
You think the Mets are a little tight because of the pennant race? No.
Former teammates.
This is before the game. Todd Hundley coming over to say hello, gets a little hug. Ray Ordonez coming over. They're checking out the pipes of Mr. Alfonso, and I don't really blame them. He's got 24 home runs.
Yeah, where did that come from? That's what they're saying. Hey, how come you're hitting for power now? Well, everybody's hitting for power these days.
First pitch of the ball game is called. Ball 1 to Ricky Henderson.
Now there's a career record right there. 75 of them leading off a ball game, home runs.
It's broken up 75 no-hitters.
Big time, but not this time.
Kevin Brown, the author of a no-hitter himself. Some of the things we'll be tracking tonight on Baseball Thursday, the entrees. We'll continue to talk about the former Dodgers now making their mark in New York. Of course, Orel Hershiser coming back. And we'll let you know what happened on this date back in 1965 right here.
I remember.
Well, you were probably listening to it.
I listened to it on the radio. That's all we'll say right now.
All right. The dulcet tones of Mr. Scully. Creating some memories for Mr. Kennedy. Edgardo Alfonso takes a strike. And by the way, this is Ian Lamplow, the rookie home plate umpire. Mark Carlson at first. He's another new addition to the National League. So we'll check the strike zone of a guy that honestly, Kevin, you and I aren't that familiar with, Ian Lamplow.
Well, one of the 22 umpires that have come up. Actually, there's 25 on call. 22 are working that have come up from AAA to replace the umpires that were let go. And Lamplow is one of them.
0-2 is bashed towards right center. That's going to drop. And Alfonso rolls around first. He'll come on back with a one-out single.
Well, what makes Alfonso a .314 hitter is because he does hit to all fields, does not try to pull the ball if it's away, and he gets the ball up and out over the plate. Pretty much a straight fastball. No sink to that one for Kevin Brown. Alfonso goes inside the ball with his hands and shoots it into right center for a sharp single.
It really is remarkable to see a New York Met team as loose as they present themselves to be. A lot of that has to do with guys like Piazza and certainly Robin Ventura, who's become almost a team leader. Just in terms of what's on the stereo in the clubhouse where everybody goes out after the ball games.
Josh, they made some great moves, obviously, and Bobby Valentine's got to be having some fun trying to get into the playoffs for his first time in his major league managerial career. And when you've got a club like they have, they're second in hitting, they're first in fielding, they're sixth in pitching, you're going to have some fun.
Best chance for the postseason, you figure, since 1988 when they were led by Howard Johnson or Hojo. The 99 Mets insist they are led instead by Mojo.
Well, I saw Howard Johnson before the game. He's now scouting for the Mets in the ballpark.
Yeah, but he was not mentioned in the classic Doors tune that the Mets have now adopted as their own anthem. Pitch is down and in, and we go to 3-0 on John Olerud. And by the way, Mr. Ventura had plenty to do with that adoption. The song in question is L.A. Woman. And he's the one that went out and bought the T-shirts and passed them out. But the Mets mojo is rising.
Well, there's the former L.A. man, Mike Piazza, waiting on deck.
That's called a strike on the inside half. 3-1 to Olerud.
I mean, up and down this lineup, you've got 300 hitters until you get to the 8th spot, which is Rey Ordonez. First 7 hitters in this lineup, all over 300.
Alfonso on the move, and a chop ball near second base. Only play is to first, and Young gets it there in time. So 2 down, and Mike Piazza comes to the plate. Let's listen to the crowd. Well, you hear it both ways, don't you? They appreciate what he has done. They are disappointed he's no longer here doing it.
Now look at the consistency of Mike Piazza. 33 home runs, 106 RBIs, 316 average, year in and year out. Great power to right center, great power to left field. Gets the ball all over the ballpark. That's what makes him such a great hitter. Very quiet in his stance, really uses his hands extremely well. Not one of those guys with the big leg kick. Because he is so quiet with his feet, he can wait so long on the baseball.
Just barely gets a piece. He's behind Kevin Brown 0-2. Not that there's a lot of shame in that. Brown in with a 16-6 record. And his ERA is about 1.5 below what the league average is.
Well, it's because he's got that great sinker. That's what we just saw in that last pitch to get Piazza to 0-2. This account, sometimes you'll see Kevin Brown on the right-handers drop down and throw 3/4. Try to give the hitter a different look, different release point.
Rip and a miss. Down he goes. He blew him away. Alfonso stranded at second base. Here come the Dodgers against Orel Hershiser. Young, Grzelcyk, and Sheffield to the plate in a scoreless first inning. Now the LA Dodgers have lost 3 straight, but they have won 12 of their last 19. They figure maybe late in the game, late in the season. They're finally starting to get the hang of this thing. Their lineup tonight brought to you by Zima. And it's got Eric Young leading off and playing second base. Mark Grzelcyk, his double play partner, having a nice year at the plate. Gary Sheffield's in left. Eric Karros at first. Then the former Met Todd Hundley. Raul Mondesi is in right field. Devon White in center. It is Adrian Beltre at third base. And of course Kevin Brown in the 9th spot in the order. Orel Hershiser gets welcome back to this particular mound on which so much magic was made.
Well, he sure does. My former teammate back in '82, Albuquerque. Orel Hershiser still has the great sinker as his out pitch. He's a ground ball pitcher, outstanding overhand curve, very intelligent, and a big game pitcher. He's a guy you want in the playoffs, that's for sure. Intelligent on the mound because he really studies the hitter. He's got the scouting reports. He knows when to go in on him, when to go away. He really studies those things, and he's gotten by the last few years mainly on his intelligence.
And you taught him that at Albuquerque, correct?
Well, I didn't exactly teach him that. He was actually a setup man in Albuquerque back in '82, and And Del Crandall and Tommy Lasorda both suggested that he should be a starter in the big leagues because he has that kind of stuff. Good sinker, good curve, and the rest is history.
Eric Young takes a strike on the inside corner. Yeah, for the record for the Albuquerque Dukes, 17 years ago, 9 wins, 4 saves for a young, fresh out of Bowling Green University, Orel Hershiser.
And boy, we had a great team that year. We had guys like Mike Marshall and Dave Anderson and Ray Brock, some old Dodgers that came up and took the place of Garvey and Say and people like that.
The righty rocks it in, and the sinker down and outside. Orel Hershiser certainly can take a lot of solace in the fact that he has got that spectacular defense behind him. Ball is lofted towards center field. No problem for Darrell Hamilton. 1 out, and now let's meet that defense for the New York Mets. It has been an airtight defense, especially in that infield with Ventura, Ordonez, Alfonso, and Olerud. As a team, Kevin, the Mets have made only 63 errors. Next lowest in the National League, 86. That would be the Philadelphia Phillies. And by the way, they play on turf half the time.
And can you imagine the 2 guys up the middle, the shortstop Ordonez with only 5 errors and Alfonso with only 4. 9 errors combined with 2 guys that touch the ball more than anybody on the field. And you've got a sinker baller like Orel Hershiser. That's gravy for him.
This time Hershiser doesn't even let it get to the men that we're talking of. You know, when you look at a team like the Cardinals, for example, when they're in town, you come early to watch batting practice because of McGuire. With the Mets, you don't ask what time is BP, you ask what time's infield.
And isn't that fun for a change to talk about defense, pitching and defense, especially in the National League right here? Look at that Major League record, 45 errors by the 64 Orioles. Mets infield has only made 30. Had a chance to break that infield record. And you know, we got the guys in the corner, Ventura and Olerud, that are no slouches themselves. They're phenomenal defensively. Big shift on now for Sheffield.
Yep, they're thinking Sheffield's going to hammer it towards left. They pitch him inside.
Take a look right there. Big hole on the right side. It's only John Olerud right there at first base. They don't expect Sheffield to punch one through that hole on the second base side.
That one blazes in for a strike. 1-1.
Tough September for Gary Sheffield so far. 0.91 batting average.
Raked into left field. Well struck. It is gone. A home run for Sheffield. So much for the soggy September.
And you can't defense that. They can put all the infielders they want on the left side, but if you get a ball up, Sheffield can take you deep, and that's exactly what he did. And he sure did pull it. But he got it up in the air and out of the ballpark. Take a look. Piazza setting up outside. That ball just came down and in to Sheffield, right into his swing. And Mike Piazza wanted that ball away, and a Hershiser missed location. Gary just turned on a good hip turn right there, got the hands through. And that was a bullet line drive to left field for the home run.
His 24th of the year, and it brings up a fellow who's got 31, Eric Karras, who takes a strike.
There's another ball that ran in. Piazza wants that ball away. A lot of times Michael set up outside. Orel run that ball out over the outside corner. You don't want that thing running in over the plate. It's got so much movement, which is great, but you got to be able to control that. Normally Orel can, but not on the pitch to Sheffield. Guys like Greg Maddux and Tommy Glavine are so good at that of Atlanta. They shoot that sinker on the outside corner, shoot it off the outside corner, and try to bite the black of home plate. Catch the hitters looking at it.
A swing, and it gets past the mound, but it's sucked up by Ordonez, who throws out Karras. That ends the inning, but not before Sheffield provides some damage with his 24th home run of the year. 1-0. L.A. will play the second. Gary Sheffield, who had the home run magic back on opening day in support of Kevin Brown, early in the game here tonight, goes deep off Orel Hershiser. Dodgers won, the Mets nothing. as Sheffield connects for number 24.
Now take a look at this pitch. Piazza wants it away, wants the sinker away. It went right down and in into Gary Sheffield's swing. He missed by a good 12 inches on location, and you miss location on the great hitters. That's what's going to happen to you.
Mets coming up in the second with Ventura, Hamilton, and Cedeno. Robin Ventura closing on the Mets record for most RBI in one season. That record is 117, shared by the aforementioned Howard Johnson and Bernard Gilkey.
Well, this may be and probably is the biggest acquisition of the offseason, getting Ventura. Robin comes in to play third base. It moves Edgardo Alfonso to second base. Shores up the defense. And you've got a solid left-handed bat hitting right behind Mike Piazza for some protection.
Bobby Valentine says we go out and we get one guy and improve two positions, getting Alfonso to second, plugging in Ventura at third.
Absolutely correct. And you've got him in the middle of that lineup. A lot of protection for Piazza. You got Olerud from the left side, then Piazza, then Ventura hitting 3, 4, 5.
And this offseason, Kevin, both Bobby Valentine and Ventura's friend Tony Gwynn offered to send Ventura tape of National League pitchers so he could bone up on the league. He refused the offer. Said, I just want to keep this simple. See ball, try and a hit ball. Let me see how that goes. Well,
it's the old KISS theory. Keep it simple, stupid.
Right. Broke his bat on that last attempt to count 2-2 to him.
Yeah, sometimes you can overanalyze with video and getting too much information, and Robin didn't want to see it. He said he wanted to just see the ball and hit it. He's got to come across home plate at some point, 17 inches across, and it's worked for him here in the National League.
He's got it working against Kevin Brown, you see, too.
Well, that's because Ventura's a good low ball hitter.
Not that time. That's that power sinker of Kevin Brown's. Mel Hall once said that's like trying to hit a brick. And as Darrell Hamilton comes up, we're going to flash you back to Kevin Brown's no-hitter of a couple of years ago. This was Hamilton at the plate. Called out on strikes, ball game is over. Would have been a perfect game, except Brown hits Marvin Bernard in the knee with a 1-2 pitch in the 7th inning, so he settled for a no-hitter, which it looked like he was happy to do.
Like the fearsome foursome running out there, led by Bobby Bonilla, to tackle him. Congratulate him.
Look at those numbers with the Mets. 376 for Hamilton.
Very nice pickup for Darrell Hamilton coming to the Mets. He's an outstanding center fielder. He's been with a lot of ball clubs and always does well. Doesn't seem to stay in one place very long, but he came up with Milwaukee, went to Texas, played well. The Giants, he played well. Colorado. Done a good job since he's coming over to New York. And a good chance that he'll be in the playoffs this year.
But it seems like the Mets fans don't just want the playoffs. They can smell something beyond that. And as a rule, the Mets play in a World Series exactly once a decade. That ball rolled towards first. That is a fair ball, and Hamilton is retired. 2 down in the 2nd inning. Right now, time for a Fox Sports Net game break, and all eyes were on Sammy Sosa today. He was looking to get up towards 60 home runs. Would you settle for number 59? Sammy taking Pete Harnish into the Juniper Spruce, but a couple innings after that, Greg Vaughn, a 2-run shot. 4-3 Reds at that point. Cincinnati goes on to win it 5-3. Greg Vaughn has hit 36, 5 in his last 3 games. Big swing and a miss by the former Dodger Roger Cedeno. You check the tote board and look at that bottom set of numbers there. If you total it up for the last 2 years, it's Sosa by 1.
How about that? 125, and that DNP right there means did not play today for Mark McGwire.
He is entitled. Cedeno bouncing out. 5 in a row set down by Kevin Brown, and now here comes L.A. Dodgers leading it 1-0 on Fox Sports Net. It's the L.A. Dodgers leading the New York Mets by the score of 1-0. The Mets are trying to gain a little bit of ground on the Atlanta Braves in the National League East and make sure they don't lose any ground in terms of holding off the Cincinnati Reds in the wild card. The Reds were winners today.
About the Mets' best record in Major League Baseball since June the 6th. The .682 winning percentage.
And gee, isn't that right around the time that Bobby Valentine said that we've got to pick it up? The coaches, half the coaching staff was let go as Todd Hundley takes the ball. Bobby Valentine says, hey, judge us over the next 55 games. Judge me over the next 55. Chop ball behind second. And Todd Hundley is out, scored 6-3. That is Orel Hershiser on this mound. And of course, as an LA Dodger, he made magic on this mound 11 years ago. On this mound, he was in the midst of his record-setting 59 consecutive inning scoreless streak. It was in San Diego, just south on the I-5, that he got up to 59 scoreless innings in a row. He broke Don Drysdale's record, got a hug from Big D.
And of course, Orel won the Cy Young Award. The last time the Dodgers were in the World Series and won the World Series, 1988.
He had the trifecta. Was the Cy Young Award winner, got the NLCS MVP and the World Series MVP that year.
And ironically, it was against the Mets that Orel Hershiser came in relief and won that final game.
Yep, beat Ron Darling
to get to the World Series. He had pitched the day before. He told Tommy Lasorda, I could get the last out. Went down to the bullpen. Tommy was down to his last out, and Orel came in and did the job.
Hershiser throwing that one behind a swinging Raul Mondesi. Mondesi chasing a 30-30 season here, Kevin. He's got the 28 home runs, 27 stolen bases.
Well, I think if the Dodgers are thinking about trading this guy, it's a huge mistake. This guy played for me in 1991 Albuquerque. He's a good guy. You just need to communicate with him and talk to him because he's a 5-tool player. He's got Sammy Sosa tools. Believe me. He can hit with power, run, throw, and field. And he is a good guy. I know him well.
But what do you say to those who point out he just cussed out his manager and his general manager? As that ball is lifted towards left center. There's a lot of people around LA that see this guy as not a good guy to have in a clubhouse.
Well, you know what? There's going to be fights on ball clubs. You handle it the wrong way. You handle that behind closed doors. You try to handle that before it gets to that point. Obviously, there are more things that we know behind that. But for a player to come out publicly and blast his GM and managers, there's a lot more going on behind the scenes. So you can't let it get to that point. And the way you don't let it get to that point is by talking to the player privately, alone. Take him out to dinner. Do some things away from the ballpark. Get to know him. Get to find out what the problems are. Don't vocalize it through the press.
Devon White chops towards second base. Alfonso to Olerud to get the Mets out of the inning. At the end of 2 at Chavez Ravine, it's still LA 1 and the New York Mets nothing. Another beautiful evening in LA. The Dodgers and the Mets tonight on Fox Sports Net Baseball Thursday. Both LA teams, the Dodgers and the Angels, have unwittingly turned out to be all hat and no cattle, so to speak, this year, Kevin. A lot of big talk in spring training. Very little to show in the win-loss column.
Well, the Mets are on their way, I think, to the playoffs. I do believe that Cincinnati's close, but I think the Mets have the better club, and they're going to be in the playoffs. They're just too strong unless somebody gets hurt. For the Dodgers, it's a total disappointment. They were expected to win the West. Obviously, they've been out of it for a long, long time, and the one guy that's been consistent has been Kevin Brown, but Davey Johnson's had an awfully tough year here, his first year in LA.
Of course, he was the Mets manager mid to late 80s, winning the National League East 3 years in a row at one point. Kevin Brown deals it. And that's strike one to Ray Ordonez.
I'll tell you what, though, it's a good race. It's really good for baseball. I think what Cincinnati's done is fantastic this year. Nobody thought they'd be even close, and here they are with guys like Sean Casey and Hokie Reese, and that bullpen of theirs is great.
Well, chalk up one broken bat tonight, induced by Kevin Brown. When he's on, you got to go on to a second hand to count him. If he's getting up to a half a dozen, that's a great night.
We talked about having the nastiest sinker in baseball, the hardest sinker in baseball. Watch this pitch to Ordonez. Watch the movement. In on the hands. I mean, that's handleball right there. I mean, that will break your hands, and believe me, that will sting. Fortunately, Ordonez has a couple of batting gloves on. Look at that. I mean, that's, yes, sir, that's a hard sinker right there, Ray.
It's like he was on his way to a duel right there.
You know, it's a broken bat like that swirled around many years ago and stuck in the neck of Steve Yeager, former Dodger catcher.
Hershiser immediately bouncing out. 7 consecutive Mets retired by Kevin Brown.
Well, that's the 5th ground ball to second base for Kevin Brown.
Kevin Brown, by the way, you might know he's a one-time college walk-on. He had gone to Georgia Tech as a co-op student, preparing for a career as a chemical engineer. A Mets scout wanted him to go to a tryout, but Brown told him he couldn't because he couldn't miss class. Wouldn't the Mets have loved it if Kevin Brown wasn't so serious about his studies? All of what you just saw maybe could have been in the Mets organization.
Well, he was a guy that went to Georgia Tech, and they have a very good baseball program. Guys like Nomar Garcia-Parra, of course, came out of Georgia Tech. Kevin Brown signed with the Texas Rangers and moved his way up to the big leagues rather quickly with that hard sinker. When you've got stuff like him, 94, 95 fastball with that kind of movement and that hard slider, you're going to have the success that he's had. Now, the only problem with Kevin Brown years ago and still at times is controlling his temper. He gets mad at himself, not really at anybody else. He's so competitive that, you know, managers, and I can speak for it because I managed him in 93, 94. You're just worried that he's going to hurt himself by tearing up a water cooler or punching the wall when he doesn't do well.
2-1 the count to Henderson. I remember you being quoted in 94 saying that Kevin Brown is the most self-destructive player that you had ever met.
To himself. Yeah, that's why I say self-destructive. I didn't mean he was bad with anybody else. I was just worried about him. You know, he really wanted to win so bad, and when he wasn't perfect, he'd go in and tear some lights out in the clubhouse, and I think the managers that have had him in the past can attest to that. I know Bruce Bochy has seen it, and even in spring training in Dodgertown this year, there was a spring training game where he got frustrated and tore the bathroom up.
By the way, the old song "Nobody Walks in L.A." does not apply to Ricky Henderson. He is going to end up, you would figure, if not in the top 2, certainly in the top 3 in terms of walks. He's already in the top 3, and I don't see any reason, Kevin, he can't actually end up beyond the Babe.
Well, I think he will. I think he's going to end up first because he's not slowing down. I mean, he's swinging the bat well over 330. Still stealing bases, 33 of those, so he's going to turn his walk into a run pretty soon if he steals second off of Hundley.
And Henderson, at 40 years old, just might steal 40 bases this year.
And he's really helped Roger Cedeno, teaching him the art of base stealing. Roger Cedeno coming over in that trade for Todd Hundley, one of the guys that came over along with.
Well, and Cedeno loves being able to hang out with a guy that he says was his hero growing up in Venezuela. Says he had all his baseball cards as a kid.
Yeah. We used to see Ricky on the bench when Roger would get on base, and when Ricky wasn't playing every day, he would look in and Ricky would tell him to get a bigger lead and point little things out to him. And Roger Cedeno has 60 stolen bases this year.
Alfonso checks his swing, takes a strike. And Cedeno, when he was here in L.A., he took over the Dodgers center field job when Brett Butler was diagnosed with cancer. A very emotionally draining time. And Butler, even through all that, also worked with Cedeno on his game, especially on the bunt.
I was talking to Kevin Malone and Bobby Bonilla about that. Nobody thought he was going to have that kind of ability.
That ball slash foul. And Henderson was on the move, by the way. We'll back up, do it again on 1 and 2. Second time the Mets have had a 40-year-old left fielder leading off and wearing number 24. Ricky Henderson's boyhood hero was indeed Willie Mays, and he was the other one that did all of that. Rounds 1-2 to Alfonso. Is hammered in back of second base. Young, a nice play, and throws out the Fonz. 3 ground ball outs in the inning. There was a walk to Henderson as well that did not blossom. Bottom of the 3rd coming up. The Dodgers try to add to a 1-0 lead. Here's tonight's Sherwin-Williams baseball trivia question. How many games did Orel Hershiser win during the 1988 postseason? We've been talking glowingly about that 1988 regular season. of Orel Hershiser's. That's when he had the consecutive innings streak, 59 scoreless in a row. And Hershiser, from all accounts, was going to be pitching in Philadelphia this year, Kevin. But the lure of playing on natural grass with the Mets was just too strong, as was the thought of the men standing sentinel over the grass. That infield we've talked about, it's been phenomenal. Adrian Beltre takes inside from the man they call the Bulldog. The count 2-0.
Well, if you're a sinker ball pitcher and you want to go to some team, you got to look at who your defense is. You've got Alfonso and Ordonez up the middle, and then Ventura and John Olerud. That's the place to go if you're a sinker ball pitcher, and Orel is definitely a ground ball pitcher. Ray Ordonez, phenomenal shortstop.
That ball blasted towards center, and sinking towards center. Devon White surrounds it and hangs on. Or check that, Darrell Hamilton surrounds it. He makes the play on that sinking line drive by Adrian Beltre. And when the Mets acquired Darrell Hamilton, looking for a true center fielder, this is kind of what they had in mind.
Well, he's always been a very, very good defensive outfielder. Positions himself well, tracks this ball. Little dive right there, going to his knees and making sure he hangs on to the baseball. Nice play.
So now Hershiser and Brown mano a mano here. The pitcher facing a pitcher. And Kevin Brown with only 5 hits this year, none for extra bases.
A little surprised he's only hitting .072 because he's a very, very good athlete, as we talked about. He's a good golfer.
Tag towards short. Ray Ordonez without a problem settles it across, 2 down. Time right now for a Fox Sportsnet game break. We're going to take you to the vet in Philadelphia. The Phillies slumping. This game tied at 1 in the top of the 8th. Who's hotter than Ken Caminetti right now? A 2-run home run off Steve Montgomery. The Astros win this game 3-1, extend their winning streak to 7. They closed out that road trip 7-0. Shane Reynolds had a no-hitter going in the 6th inning. Broken up by Rob Ducey. Billy Wagner came on, got his 35th save. And Cincinnati, as well as the Reds have been playing, they're losing ground.
So Houston's so tough. The 4 starters right now, the 4 key starters. Hampton won his 19th last night. Lima, Reynolds, and now Scott Ellerton, who's 8-4 with a 2.95 ERA. 4 solid starters there for Houston, and a great closer, Billy Wagner. And as you said, Caminetti's hot, and they need that because they've had some injuries with that outfield. They need a bat to hit behind Jeff Bagwell.
1 strike to Eric Young, and he puts this one towards Ordonez. No chance of that getting through. Ground balls everywhere you look. Kind of what we expected tonight, with Hershiser and Brown going after each other. Still 1-0 LA. Back to the Sherwin-Williams trivia question. How many games did the Bulldog win in the 1988 postseason for the LA Dodgers? We'll flash you back and you can count along with us. The answer is 3.
Ooh.
And we'll try to get you the video proof of it, but Orel Hershiser was the winning pitcher in Game 7 of the NLCS.
Well, he came to New York. He needed 10 wins for 200. He's now got 12 wins. So Orel Hershiser over the 200 win mark.
And he won a couple games in the World Series too, including the clincher in Oakland. That the Kurt Gibson home run series. Game 1 coming off the bench.
Right here, Dodger Stadium.
Jose Canseco had given the A's a 4-0 lead on a grand slam early on. John Olerud takes tight from Kevin Brown. The count 1-1. You know, you were talking about what a terrific athlete Kevin Brown is. You can really say the same about Orel Hershiser.
Yeah, they're very similar because they're both sinker ball pitchers. Orel's a great golfer also. We talked about that. Great fielders. Very, very similar with their sinkers, although Orel does not throw as hard and never did throw as hard as Kevin Brown does.
And Kevin, those who remember Hershiser from his college days at Bowling Green insist he was best at everything on that campus. From foosball to pool, Pickup, ice hockey, you name it. John Olerud bounces out once again to second base, and this is getting a little bit towards uncanny now because Eric Young has handled 7 baseballs in this game already. And listen, again as Mike Piazza now comes to the plate. Boy, doesn't that play on the emotion of this crowd.
Yeah, there's some fans that still like Mike Piazza here, and really Mike Piazza left in a situation where he didn't really he was surprised by the trade last year when it happened.
All 1-2 in the last 5 years. This guy has hit .346, .336, .362, .328. And now getting towards .320 this year. Not bad for a 62nd round draft pick. Off the plate and back to Kevin Brown. Piazza's out. I mean, think about that, Kevin. 1,600 players were taken before the Dodgers took a flyer on Mike Piazza. And here he is with a career major league batting average close to .330.
Well, that's a great story. That gives encouragement for all young players out there that want to get to the big leagues. That you have a chance if you keep improving and keep playing ball. And Mike was signed, given a chance by Tommy Lasorda, who was a friend of the family's, 62nd round pick. And Tommy actually came to me and said, hey, make him into a catcher, because I was the organizational catching instructor. And I worked with him a couple of years in '89 and '90 in the instructional league for 6 weeks. And I didn't teach him how to hit, that's for sure.
Ventura sends one into center field. Just a second hit allowed by Kevin Brown. We should, in the interest of full disclosure, get the list out now, Kevin, of all the guys that you have come into contact with on this field tonight. It's a long list.
It's kind of an LA East with this Met ball club, not only for me, even starting with their manager. Bobby Valentine was a former Dodger, so there's a lot of connections here. Dave Wallace was my pitching coach in winter ball for 4 years. Johnny Franco, who was a starter in the Dodger organization. I got a chance to catch his first AAA start in '82. We talked about Hershiser, Piazza, there's Dave Wallace. Kenny Rogers on the right is one of my guys back in Texas days.
Would it be easier? Would it be easier just to list the guys that you haven't played with or coached?
Well, you know, all that means is that I spent a lot of years in the minor leagues and in winter ball and some in the big leagues, of course, too. But you know, it's fun for a former manager to see your players, guys that played for you, and hopefully you've helped along the way somehow.
Darrell Hamilton takes a look. Strike one. Against 1 ball on the count as well. 1 on, 2 out.
You know, talking about Piazza's bat, he always was able to hit. And there were guys like that helped him in the minor leagues, like Reggie Smith, very solid hitting instructor, did a nice job with Mike.
Big cut, couldn't get that. A hard sinker. Von Joshua, another guy that had a crack at him, and Von Joshua was a teammate of Bobby Valentine's way back when for one of the best minor league teams maybe of all time, the 1970 Spokane Indians.
Well, Vaughn was my hitting coach one year, although Mike didn't play for me because he was down in A-ball at the time when I was in AAA, but Vaughn was still there after I left, and Vaughn helped Mike Piazza. All the guys helped Mike Piazza in instruction.
Strike 3, run up over the outside corner. Kevin Brown disposes of Darrell Hamilton. He has struck out a couple, and he's allowed just a couple of hits so far. The Sheffield home run is still standing up. It's 1-0 Dodgers. One-time big-time Dodgers prospect Bobby Valentine. We talked about that team he was a part of in the minors almost 30 years ago in Spokane, Washington. Had Billy Buckner at first, Davey Lopes at second. Valentine was a shortstop. Steve Garvey was at third. And the man who managed that team in Spokane, Tommy Lasorda. His last stop before Chavez Ravine.
Well, Bobby is truly Tommy Lasorda's favorite guy in baseball, definitely his favorite manager.
Grudzielanek takes on the count 1-0. Valentine and Lasorda also together the year before that in A-ball. Valentine's roommate was a Wimperoo, Tom Pachorik, who visited the ballpark before the game tonight.
Sure did. We saw him before the game. Absolutely.
Had a few off-color stories to tell about that first year in Utah. And then, yeah, everybody moving on, moving up to Spokane.
Well, the Dodgers tried to recreate that type of atmosphere with the Garvey and Say and Lopes and Billy Russell types, and they tried to do that with when Eric Karros was signed, and Bro Mondesi was signed out of the Dominican, and they tried to keep that team intact. They originally had guys like Tommy Goodwin, who's with Texas now, as a center fielder, Jose Offerman. All these guys came up together, and there was hopes of, with the 5 Rookies of the Year awards consecutively again back in the 90s, early part of the 90s, in Piazza. They wanted to keep the homegrown intact, and it just hasn't worked out. But really, after the 1988 season, Josh, they really, even though they've been in the playoffs a few times in the 90s, they really haven't done well.
Player development, though, continues to be something they can talk about very proudly. Maybe all you need to know about this Dodger farm system is that a couple of off seasons ago, LA had 12 of their minor leaguers selected in that Rule 5 draft. No other team lost as many as 5. So somebody out there thinks the Dodgers are growing talent okay. Of course, it's been hanging on to the talent lately that has come into question, and also the wisdom of some of those trades. There's Kevin Malone in his first year as a Dodger GM. You were alluding to the Roger Cedeno deal earlier, the 3-way trade, and certainly the Mets have the early advantage there. Slowly hit ground ball near third. Ventura, no sail. Couldn't get it. It's an infield single for Mark Grudzielanek to lead things off in the 4th. And the man that hit the home run in the first inning comes up now, Gary Sheffield. Before we get to him, we'll remind you that the NFL this morning premieres Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific on Fox Sports Net. Chris Myers, Jackie Slater, and Marv Levy preview the day's slate of NFL action. Please check your local listings. Boy, is it really time for the NFL again? I guess it is.
Comes fast, doesn't it?
Whew. Exhibition hockey gets going this weekend. Didn't we just crown a Stanley Cup champion a couple months ago?
Yes, we did.
Sheffield takes a strike. He's accounted for the only run of the game.
Well, that base hit by Grudzielanek, that was a good sinker by Orel Hershiser. So that's a good sign when the guys are getting the swinging bunt type infield hits. The only mistake so far that Orel has made was against Sheffield in the first inning. Both Kevin Brown and Hershiser have the sinker working extremely well.
That has kept the infielders very busy.
And again with Sheffield, there's a shift on. Ordonez way deep in the hole at short. Alfonso shaded up the middle. Big hole on the right side.
1-1 is smoke towards center field. Darrell Hamilton, shy of the warning track, will make the catch.
Well, usually at night in Dodger Stadium, the ball does not carry, especially out there to dead center. In the first inning, air was a little lighter, still light out. Gary smoked the ball to left field for the home run. But now as the game gets later on, that heavy air in center field, the deepest part of the ballpark, kind of hangs up there because Gary hit that ball well. That's why this ballpark historically has been great for pitchers. They love to throw in this ballpark. Now day game, it's a different story. The ball carries pretty well, but not at night.
Kind of an odd sight here as Eric Karras is standing right in front of where one of his best friends in the world is squatting. Piazza watches as that ball takes off to left field, tracked down again near the warning track, this time by Henderson.
Now that ball died. Eric hit that ball pretty well, but again, it gets to the middle of the ball game. The air here in Chavez Ravine is heavy, and the ball just is knocked down. Look at Eric shaking his head. He knows it. That's a pitch he can drive out of the ballpark. And
well, something for he and Piazza to talk about after the game, perhaps.
well, they're extremely close. They used to live the same complex down near Manhattan Beach, which we saw earlier. Some shots of that. No body surfing now. Don't get hurt, Eric. You know.
Hundley with 1 on, 2 out.
I'll tell you, the Mets really used their scouting report. Alfonso was way in the hole on the right side against Hundley defensively at second base. You've got now Ordonez up the middle. Here's Alfonso way over at second base right there. And they're going to give Hundley the shortstop side, big hole at shortstop. But they'll take that. They'll give that. If you want to let Todd Hundley hit a single left, that's okay. We just don't want him going deep on us to right field. And if he pulls the ball with Gruzelanek at first, you want to make sure it's not a first and third single, so you get Alfonso way over in the hole to take that single away on the right side as well against a sinker ball pitcher in Orel Hershiser. Good defensive game plan. Not only do they have good defensive players, they've got a good scouting report. Bobby puts the shift on. Ordonez is, almost right up the middle. The shortstop.
Still looking for our first hit in this game, Kevin, by the way, with the runner not only in scoring position but on base, period. Only 4 hits in the game total, a 1-0 score.
And Josh, part of this defensive plan, we talked about Orel Hershiser being an intelligent pitcher. He'll tell the infielders, this is where I'm going to pitch him, this is where I'd like you to play. If I make a mistake, it's on me, it's my fault.
And there's a phenomenon that's come out of all this, too. Hershiser, a guy that certainly appreciates a good defensive play, whether or not it's behind him or not. But he'll turn around and watch the video screen. He wants to see the replay. 3-1 to count to Hundley. He will literally step off the back of the mound. Whether it's at Shea Stadium or Dodger Stadium, he'll figure out where the Jumbotron is. And he'll wait. That's where he'll be looking, and believe me, he knows precisely where it is at this particular ballpark. He's making his 172nd start on this mound tonight. This ball lifted towards third. Ventura on the outfield grass makes the catch. So again, there's a leadoff single, and it does not blossom. We have played 4. It is still 1-0 LA. Truth in advertising here at Dodger Stadium. We talked about a couple of ground ball pitchers. These two, Brown and Hershiser, have combined for 15 ground ball outs through 4 innings. And our score 1-0 Dodgers because of the Gary Sheffield first inning home run. Not a single fly ball out registered yet by the LA Dodgers.
Well, that's Kevin Brown's game as advertised. The nastiest sinker in the game. He's got 9 ground ball outs so far, 3 strikeouts. Nothing in the air.
Roger Cedeno takes in 2 tight. It is a 2-hit performance so far, a 2-hit shutout. That's exactly what Brown did for 9 innings last time at Wrigley Field. 2 balls, no strikes to count to Cedeno. What a terrific acquisition by the New York Mets.
You're right, Josh. He was acquired from the Dodgers on December the 1st in '98. In a 3-team trade, they sent catcher Todd Hundley and minor league pitcher Arnold Gooch from the Mets to the Dodgers for catcher Charles Johnson. He went to the Orioles, and then Benitez goes to the Mets. And, of course, Cedeno ends up in New York.
It was a very busy day. That's when Robin Ventura decided to come on board as a free agent as well. Cedeno says that at that press conference, the media asked Ventura close to 50 questions. Cedeno claims he was asked 1. And Cedeno told himself, hey, soon enough, these people are going to know my name. I'll make sure of that.
He's done that. 60 stolen bases. Kevin Brown going with some power fastballs, some 4-seam fastballs, which is the 95-mile-an-hour fastball we just saw right there.
And you take a look at the Toyota League leaders. As that ground ball is going to find center field. And we'll see if perhaps Cedeno can add to his total of 60 steals, which is already a Met record. Will he be off and running against Todd Hundley? A lot of men have already tried it. Now, before we get into that, we'd just like to take a moment, Kevin, to remember the Hall of Fame pitcher Jim Catfish Hunter. If you haven't heard, Catfish Hunter died today after his battle with Lou Gehrig's disease. He was 53. And truly a wonderful man. 224 victories in a 15-year career. He pitched a perfect game for the A's. Back in 1968, he was an 8-time All-Star. But he will be remembered maybe as much for off the field than on the field.
Yeah, more than all the victories. The guy was just a great down-to-earth man. I spent 1 week with Catfish doing a Dodger fantasy camp 10 years ago in Dodger Town and got to know him. And I really feel sorry. Find a cure for this terrible disease. What a great man.
It was in his hometown of Hertford, North Carolina, that the immortal Charlie Finley went down there to get the deal done, to sign him as an Oakland A. The toss to first, and that's when Charlie Finley was giving everybody the colorful nicknames. He thought it added to their gate appeal. Johnny Lee Odom had already become Blue Moon Odom. And Finley asked Jim Hunter, "Do you have a nickname?" He said, "No, sir." He says, "Well, you got to have one." So I'm going to tell you a story. You memorize it, and that's how you became Catfish Hunter. As Ordonez spanks it foul. Here's the story Finley came up with, by the way. He said, "Jim, when you were 6 years old, you ran away from home and you went fishing, okay? Your mom and your dad had been out looking for you all day. When they finally found you about, say 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you'd caught 2 big fish, catfish, and you were reeling in the third, and that's why they call you Catfish Hunter. You got that, son?"
That's a great story and a true story. And remember, when Charlie Finley died, there were only 2 ex-Oakland A's that showed up at the funeral. One was Reggie Jackson. The other one was Catfish. Those were some tough ball clubs in the clubhouse and on the field, the Oakland A's in those days in the early 70s.
Brown still paying a lot of attention to the base runner. Finally comes into Ordonez, who couldn't get it. 0-2.
Take a look at the pitch. This ball runs down and away from Ray Ordonez. He was kind of waving at it. Got fooled. Got on his front foot right there. Cedeno trying to pick a spot here to steal a base. Kevin Brown mixing it up. Varying his looks over there at first base. Going quick to the plate. Cedeno's been caught 16 times. And he has stolen 60.
But he's got that continued green light with the New York Mets. That was kind of a flashing red at best when he was here in L.A.
Yeah, they had the stop sign on him, and that frustrated him. And I agree with Roger. I mean, you've got good base stealers. You got to give them the green light, and occasionally on certain counts, like maybe right now it's a good pitch out count. Maybe right now is when you say, hey, don't run on this count right here.
There he goes. And a foul ball by Ordonez.
See, I might have done it right there because you saw him wanting to go. Kevin threw over there. So on a pitch out count, occasionally, if I know the other manager will pitch out, I'll put the stop sign on just for that pitch and then give the green light back on. But I didn't like to used to put the steal sign on it, because if you make him run on that pitch and he doesn't feel he has a good jump, you get those guys thrown out more times than not. Let them run on their own. The better base stealers, let them run on their own. And
Cedeno's saying too, and this carries certainly into the stolen base discussion, the big difference in New York as opposed to L.A., he says, that he's no longer terrified that one mistake, one caught stealing, he's going to put him on the bench for a week.
That's right. Well, Bobby's done a good job with that, Valentine, and so has Ricky Henderson. He's taught him to be aggressive. Don't be afraid to be thrown out. You can't steal bases if you're afraid you're going to be thrown out. You got to pick your spots, be aggressive, know what to look for. Usually they'll look for the left of the left foot by the pitcher. As soon as he lifts his left heel, you got to go to home plate. When you lift the right heel, you got to throw to first base. That's what most base stealers look at, is the feet. Some guys get fooled by the shoulders, but you look at the feet. As soon as he picks up that left heel, you got to go home. Of course, that's on the right-hand pitcher. Lefty is a different story.
Still 1-2 to Ray Ordonez.
Good job by Kevin Brown. That's this hold sign right there, just making Cedeno get antsy. And a little step off right there. So Kevin's doing everything he can to give Hundley a chance to throw Cedeno out.
Look out. Safe the call. Art Carlson, one of the new umpires added to the mix this past week, is the man at first tonight. He had his eyesight tested right there, a close play.
Well, Roger thought he'd just casually get off right there and almost got picked off.
Still 1 ball 2 strikes. There goes the runner. Hundley firing. Cedeno diving. And the ball comes away. Safe the call. Randy Marsh was there. The windbreaker wearing umpire right there at second base followed it all the way. And there was kind of a continuation play there as the ball got loose.
Yeah, good jump again by Cedeno. Todd Hundley Watch him, no footwork right here. Just gets the ball one step in a throw and throws it high. If you'd thrown that ball low, he might have had a shot at getting Cedeno. Roger overslid the bag and then gets back in there. Good crossover. Usually about 12 to 13 steps in a slide before you get to the bag, and Roger with the head first gets in there and then gets back in there. Overslid the bag.
A tapper. Brown up to Spirit. Whoa. And he goes to second base. They got him this time. What a Hundley couldn't do, Brown did.
Well, there's the athleticism of Kevin Brown we're talking about. He did a nice job to try to keep Roger there at first. Once he did get the stolen base, Kevin had no fear to throw to second base. A lot of pitchers will take the sure out at first, but Kevin saw that Roger was far enough out, and Brown was aggressive enough, and he throws a strike to Gruzelanek. They actually short hopped him, and Gruzelanek made a nice play. Yeah, nice play by Gruzelanek, but he's an infielder. That's just like a little short hop with a backhand right there. He's used to those. Nice play to get Cedeno both ways.
Oh, the Mets going backwards here. They had a runner at second, nobody out. Now it's a runner at first, one out, and they've got the pitcher at the plate.
And it's a definite bunt situation. So we got Beltre way in at third base. And Orel Hershiser will try to make Eric Karros field this ball at first base.
What's it like trying to bunt that hard sinker?
It's hard. It's a tough pitch to bunt because it's coming down and in to the right-handed hitter. So you really got to use your legs to get below the ball. You've got to go down with your legs and make sure you keep the bat angle up. Keep the barrel of the bat above your hands. If you don't do that, you won't get the ball down on the ground. You got to use your legs, and Orel's down there nicely.
Looking to swing. With the third baseman Beltre racing in. Had Hershiser made contact, that could have been dangerous.
Well, Orel's done that before many times because we've talked about him being a good athlete also and a good hitter, a good hitting pitcher. Now with 2 strikes, we'll see if Bobby Valentine keeps the bunt on. He probably will. Only 2 sack bunts this year for Orel. Let's see.
He pulled back, or at least attempted to, but he just could not get done what he needed to have done. 2 down in the inning. And this Saturday is part of College Football Saturday on Fox Sports Net. Wake Forest and Army. Duke, East Carolina. You've got that great Iowa State rivalry. Washington State and Stanford covered starting at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Only on Fox Sports Net Detroit. Trying to bunt with 2 strikes. It wasn't happening for Orel Hershiser. 2 down, and it's up to Ricky Henderson to get something out of the 5th inning.
So we talked about how hard that is to bunt that sinker. Orel Hershiser was a good athlete. He just couldn't handle it. That ball ran down and in on him. Orel tried to drop it down, but just couldn't make contact. He dropped the barrel below his hands and strikes out. Still
looking for our first hit in this ball game with a runner on base. Both sides. Ball and no strikes to Ricky Henderson. We talked earlier about closing in on that all-time lead for bases on balls. Of course, he's long been the all-time leader in steals, breaking that record on the same day that Nolan Ryan pitched a no-hitter.
Well, we'll be looking at another Hall of Famer 5 years after he retires. No doubt about it. The kind of numbers that he's put up over his career. That's a good time for Ordonez to think about stealing, because if he gets thrown out, you got Ricky leading off in the 6th inning. But Ordonez is not getting off very far. He's only stolen 7 bases this year. Good hitters count right here, 2-1. Would not be a hit and run play with 2 outs, of course, if Ordonez does go. Good count because Kevin Brown wants to throw a strike here. 2-1.
Just missed. And Henderson doing what he has done so very well in this entire decade. He'll stand up there, take the pitches, work the count, make that pitcher sweat it out a little bit. On 3-1. Hammered at a play now, 3-2, and certainly we'll see the runner on the move. 3-2, 2 out.
Ricky Henderson on base percentage is .447. I mean, that's outstanding. You're over 380, 390 as a leadoff hitter. You're doing well. He's .447. That's what makes him so tough, because he can draw a walk, he can hit you out of the ballpark, get the other way. Now, of course, 3-2 count. 2 out, you'll have Ordonez in motion. The double will score a run.
Chop towards first. Carroll's leading ground. Oh, down stumbling. Might have been spiked. He'll hobble away from the bag. He did get the job done. He got Henderson. And that is the inning. It started promisingly for the Mets. Cedeno hit singled and stolen second base, but it is still 1-0. Check out Brown. Not spiked. He just tripped. Well, the pitchers duel intact halfway through the ball game. We're in the middle of the 5th. Kevin Brown looked like he came down awkwardly with his right foot when he was racing to the bag to retire Ricky Henderson.
Pretty nice feed by Karros, getting the ball to Brown before he gets to the bag, and I think Kevin just hit the middle of the bag and kind of slipped on it. Looked like he might have twisted his right ankle as he hit the bag.
That was to end the top of the 5th. We're in the bottom of the 5th now. Mondesi followed by Devon White and Adrian Beltre. Orel Hershiser really pitch for pitch. Right there with the man who's about 6 years his junior. Kevin Brown is for the Dodgers working on a 3-hitter. And Hershiser has a 2-hitter percolating right now.
This is a playoff type matchup. Well, the Dodgers won't be in the playoffs this year, but Kevin Brown certainly was the last couple of years, 2 out of the last 3 years. Orel Hershiser's been there before. This is a great matchup. 2 good sinker ball pitchers. Orel Hershiser only made 1 mistake. That was to Gary Sheffield. Good strike to ball ratio right there. Low pitch count for Orel. Left the sinker out over the plate. It didn't really sink. Came in there, Gary Sheffield, and get out of the ballpark.
Yanked to third. Ventura up with it and throws out Mondesi. And Kevin, this is an anniversary of sorts. We'll take you back to this date of 1965. Maybe the best pitchers duel ever. Just coming down to Bob Hendley of the Cubs and, of course, Sandy Koufax of the Dodgers. It ended up 1-0. It ended up as a masterpiece, a perfect game for Sandy Koufax. He struck out 14, including the last 6 in that game. Got Ernie Banks 3 times, Billy Williams twice. How'd you like to pitch a 1-hit shutout and lose on a perfect game?
Well, those are the days in the middle 60s when the Dodgers, when they'd get a single by Wills, maybe on a bunt, a stolen base, Gilliam would get him over, and he'd steal third and maybe a sac fly. I believe it was Lou Johnson that night with a sac fly to win that ball game. I remember listening to that. We were talking earlier on the radio growing up here in Los Angeles as a kid.
Vin Scully with the call. 2-2 on Harvey Keene.
And I remember Joey Amalfitano. Who
I can't do Vin, by the way.
No, but it was a nice try.
Thanks. Ground ball towards second. And Devon White, who splintered to his bat, is the second out of the inning.
The last batter of that game was Harvey Keene, but the second to the last was Joey Amalfitano, who later was the third base coach for the Dodgers and for many years. And Joey told me, he said when Harvey was coming up on deck after Joey struck out, Harvey said, Joe just walked by and they said, I'll see you in a couple seconds.
Well, our colleague Jeff Torborg was the man who was the catcher for Sandy Koufax on that fateful night. Gave him a big bear hug at the end of the game.
What a thrill that must have been for Jeff.
Hardest hit ball was a low line drive that Willie Davis ran down. Pitch is down and outside to Beltre. Kevin Brown is back.
Looks like he's looking for his batting helmet, so he's okay. He's not coming out of this game the way he's pitching.
So we flashed you back to 9/9/65, 9/9/99, not quite what we had 34 years ago, but it's really not that far off. A 1-0 game here. 5 hits combined instead of 1.
Now, I got to tell you, Sandy Koufax is a good friend of mine. I did try to make the calls. I told you guys I would, but the phone kept ringing and ringing. So Sandy could be in New Zealand doing something, or he travels a lot. I know in the summertime. So
that's nice that you remember the anniversary, though. send him a card next time.
Yeah, you know, I should have called him yesterday, I guess.
That one slides in from Hershiser to Beltray, 2-2.
I'll tell you, we're talking about Hershiser. He is a disciple of Koufax and Dave Wallace. Dave Wallace and Sandy Koufax are extremely close. And one of the reasons Dave came to the Mets is because Sandy Koufax is very close to Fred Wilpon, the owner of the Mets. Grew up with Sandy. Went to high school together in New York. And no surprise that Dave was brought over to the Mets. Some input from Sandy, and same thing for Orel Hershiser coming to the Mets. Dave Wallace was a pitching coach in the minor leagues and had Orel in the minor leagues and in the major leagues. When I say disciple, it's just what he believes in: theories, intelligence, driving off the mound, using the legs.
6 in a row set down by Hershiser. Is that frustrating for the Dodgers? We'll let you be the judge. 1-0, our score at the end of 5. The Gary Sheffield home run, still the lone run of the ball game. Dodgers over the Mets 1-0 into the 6th. And Kevin, this copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the Commissioner of Baseball. May not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without express written consent. I just wanted to make sure you were cool with that.
I'm cool with it.
All right. Speaking of cool, here's the Fonz. Edgardo Alfonzo will lead it off for the New York Mets. He'll be followed by Olerud and Piazza. And Alfonzo, before he moved to second from third, received a phone call from the man who was going to be moving him. Robin Ventura, right around Thanksgiving, wanted to make sure that everything was okay, just as a courtesy. Said, look, if I'm going to come and join you there and I'm playing third, are you okay with playing second? And Alfonso said, sure, come on, let's go. 1 down in the 6th inning, and the batter is going to be John Olerud.
Another good hard sinker by Kevin Brown, just saws off Alfonso. Easy pop fly to Eric Young. Brown is really on his game and really has been his last 9 starts. He's been phenomenal. 1.68 ERA last 9 starts. Nothing tonight.
He's been brilliant here at home. He's only lost 1 game at Dodger Stadium as a Dodger. Kind of shades of Orel Hershiser when he first came up. 1985, Orel had that 11-0 season on the mound at Chavez Ravine. I think his home ERA that year was, I think it was more like a fever. It was something like 104.
Like a fever is right.
Lost 3 games total that year for the Dodgers. He was a youngin'. That was, what, 1985. Foul ball ripped back by Olerud. The count 1-1.
Yeah, the difference between Kevin Brown and Hershiser. Hershiser really threw more to spots, has an overhand curveball to go with the sinker. Kevin Brown will kind of just sometimes just throw down the middle and let the ball run. More of a power sinker than Orel Hershiser. Has to be. Orel had to be more fine than Kevin. And Kevin will just go after it like right there. Air it out. Mix in a forkball once in a while also, but pretty much sinker slider for Brown.
That's a strike.
Hey, look at that. 96 on the knees with some movement. I mean, that is nasty. Look at his pitch. Kevin Brown, he just airs it out. They're sitting pretty much down the middle. Let's let the ball run for him.
Tried to come back, he just missed, and the count goes to 3-2.
That's why we've said hardest sinker baller in the game. Most guys can't throw their 4-seamers at 96. He throws his sinker at 96.
At 97 miles an hour. That ball whacked foul. We'll do it again. And with that sinker working for him, one thing Brown is especially stingy about, as you can probably imagine, is allowing a home run. This year, actually, a big year in terms of homering off of Kevin Brown. He's allowed 16.
And you know, Josh, most of those were early, the first couple of months of the season.
Yeah, the stat right now that we'll throw at you, he's allowed just 1 in his last, coming up on 78 innings. Last year, he allowed only 8. Double that in 1999, but You're right. Remember, he gave up the 3 on opening day here. Another foul ball from Olerud. Still 3-2.
What a good pitch right there. He's been throwing that sinker down to John Olerud. Then he goes fastball up under the hands, changing the eyesight a little bit. Give John Olerud something to think about. Another good Met hitter, though. This guy's just a great hitter. Goes opposite field, chokes up on the bat to hit the ball where it's pitched. Very short stroke.
On the ground and charged, and right behind Grudzielanek in the shallow center. Olerud never made the turn. He was hustling like a sprinter for the tape down towards that first base bag. He just thought he was going to have to lunge to maybe beat out an infield hit. Grudzielanek doing some drawing out there now. It got by him for an error.
Well, this ball had some topspin, but very, very playable, obviously. Grudzielanek just didn't get the glove down. That's it.
At this time, we'd like to welcome our viewers from Midwest Sports Channel. The Orioles have defeated the Twins tonight. Josh Lewin, Kevin Kennedy in L.A., where Mike Piazza bats. Boy, you guys joined us at an interesting time. 1-0 our score, and Piazza takes a rocket on the inside corner. Brown gets ahead 0-1. The runner at first is Olerud. He reached on the error by Grudzielanek.
Well, Mike Piazza has struck out so far against Brown on a high fastball out of the zone in the first inning. In the fourth, a little tapper, a comebacker to Kevin Brown. Curveball right there by Kevin Brown. Doesn't throw many of those, but will change up, drop down once in a while, vary the looks, because he's faced Piazza twice. Just give Mike Piazza something else to think about. There's the drop down. Third at bat, he's throwing a whole different sequence this at bat. Get Mike thinking a little bit.
Piazza hit a big home run yesterday to help cement things in the win against the Giants. Checked his swing. He took just outside. Kevin Brown wants an appeal. Mike Carlson, or check that, Mark Carlson says it is a 2-ball, 2-strike count.
That ball was close, and Mike knows it. Look at this pitch. It's a hard slider, 91 miles an hour, and just did hold up with those strong hands. Saying, please don't call it.
Piazza has struck out and bounced back to Brown. Now on 2-2, he pops it foul.
We got a pitch he could hit, but because Kevin Brown has been throwing a variety of curveballs and sliders in this sequence, Mike couldn't get to that 94 fastball up. Normally Mike can smoke that pitch. It's a ball Mike likes to hit right there. Good swing at it. Couldn't get quite through the ball right there.
And as you've talked about, Kevin, and as Dodger fans can well attest, he has that tremendous power, not necessarily to pull, but to hammer it out to right center.
That's his best power, is right center.
You can look it up. No one in baseball hits a higher percentage of opposite field home runs. Ricky Henderson, by the way, at the extreme other end of the spectrum. 33 out of Ricky's last 34 have been to left. But Piazza hits about a half of his home runs to right or right center field.
He's a very, very good high ball hitter.
Goes down to get that one, and he sprays it foul out of play once again.
Well, 3 good swings in a row now off Kevin Brown, so you might see Kevin drop down again or throw that hard slider. Look at Mike Piazza. Here's a hot zone up here, high ball hitter. You want to get him out, you got to pitch him down. And you got a sinker ball pitcher on the mound, so I would expect Kevin to go back to that sinker now. Kind of challenged him on the last couple of pitches, but time to quit fooling around. There's the drop down again. It's a great sequence right here. Great battle right here between Piazza and Brown.
Now, Piazza's not giving any quarter. He kept fouling these pitches away. There's been 8 pitches in this at bat now.
Yeah, 2 of those now Brown has dropped down. The only 2 times he's dropped down this whole game, but he knows that Mike Piazza, the previous couple of pitches, is locked in, so he gave him a different look again.
Hammered to left field. Welcome home, Mike Piazza. talked about high fastballs and what Mike Piazza can do to them. And we've also talked about Kevin Brown not allowing home runs lately.
He's a sinker ball pitcher. We talked about the ball up. You got to pitch him down here low. Look at the pitch. Up, fastball, out over the plate, and he drills it. 9th pitch of this at bat. What a great at bat by Mike Piazza. And we said earlier, best hitting catcher in baseball history. No doubt about it.
Now right back Ventura, arcing one towards right field in a foul ground. And Mondesi will grab it. That's the second out of the inning.
Kevin Brown threw every pitch he had at him, but he went away from his strength, which is the sinker. Really surprised me. Tried to challenge him. And we said the previous 3 pitches, that he's locked in on him. And he dropped down through the breaking ball, and then he went back to the straight fastball instead of his sinker.
34th home run this year for Mike Piazza. In his first game back this year at Dodger Stadium, he hits that one out against Brown. Hamilton takes outside. 2-1, the Mets have the lead.
Well, we talked about MVP candidate. That's why. Tough sequence. First 2 at bats, Kevin Brown just ate Piazza up with sinkers. Struck him out on a pitch up and out of the zone, but not over the plate. Mike chased it. That was the first inning. 4th inning, little sinker for a comebacker. And he got a fastball that was up in the zone and hittable, and Mike hit it out. First time ever versus Kevin Brown.
That's the pitch that Brown was trying to get by Piazza, trying to drive it down at his shoe tops. Piazza, again, got to give Mike Piazza credit. We showed you the hot zone. He's not supposed to be able to do that. Not supposed to be able to make contact against that sinker.
Well, the thing is, the ball didn't say. He threw a straight fastball up and he hit it out.
But before that, all the foul balls against the sinkers to get it to that point.
Yep, that's right. Take a look.
Indeed, Mike Piazza has given the Mets a 2-1 lead. Dodgers coming up now in the bottom of the 6th. They meet again at a home plate this time. Kevin Brown batting, Mike Piazza catching. Piazza took Brown deep. A 9-pitch at bat resulted in a 2-run home run. And now look out. Hershiser inside to Brown. Mets in front of LA 2-1.
Now Kevin Brown ran up the bunt, and that ball ran in on him, not intentionally by Hershiser. Brown kind of gave Orel a look, but it was just a sinker ball that ran.
Now remember what set up the home run, the error by Grudzielanek right before that to put a man on base, and then Piazza just creamed one to left field.
I think Kevin was trying to go up and out of the zone like he did in the first inning, but he didn't go up high enough. I mean, he left it over the plate about letter high, and that's Mike Piazza's hot zone. Out of the ballpark.
1 ball, 2 strikes. Hershiser now in position to win the game. He's been very economical with the pitch count. Keep in mind, Orel Hershiser doesn't have a complete game since July of '97. Good pitch and good night.
Last 2 pitches, couple of good sliders right there by Orel. Ran a couple of sinkers in and then goes away with a couple of sliders to get the strikeout.
First strikeout of the night for Orel Hershiser, who's retired 14 of the last 15 he's faced.
A little late movement, more like a cut fastball to it. Both guys are good for their defense because they work fast. They get on the mound, they throw strikes. Keeps everybody sharp.
Eric Young, the Dodger batter. And you know, Kevin, it's funny, for the first 3 quarters of the year, the New York Mets really were carried by their defense and their bullpen. Lately, the collective hero has been the starting pitching. Kenny Rogers, Octavio Dotel, and now Hershiser coming on.
And they just got Rick Reed back, who has the last couple of years been a very, very good starter for him. Kenny Rogers 5-0 since he's come over to New York. This guy's won 16 games before. He's no slouch. Back in 1993 in Texas, won 16 games. New York Mets. Got to lead them to the playoffs now.
And the team he left behind, the Oakland A's, still hanging right in there too. Got a big win yesterday. They needed that against Boston.
Well, Kenny Rogers had 12 wins his first year in New York. When the Yankees won the World Series, the next year he struggled. Won 8 games and really got out of favor a little bit with Joe Torre because Kenny stopped using his fastball. He's got a good curve and a good changeup and started walking a lot of guys, not challenging guys. And since he's come over here with Dave Wallace, even from Oakland, and he's really using the fastball again. Still has a great changing curve, but Dave's got him using that fastball both sides of the plate. He's 5-0.
Changeup in on Young is fouled away. And in New York, well, the way the starting pitching has come on for the Mets and the way the Yankees have pretty much manhandled everybody again. There's talk, loose talk for now, but talk about the old Subway Series. There hasn't been one since 1956.
It is very possible. Very possible. No doubt about it. This is a very, very good ball club that Bobby Valentine has. Got a good bullpen. Benitez has emerged as the closer now since Franco's been out. Now that Johnny Franco's back, who do you use? Dennis Cook's been very good in the bullpen. Left-handed setup man. Got a variety of starters. They just got a solid club all the way around.
Almost a surplus. And you try to figure out what's Bobby Valentine going to do. Of course, first things first, he's got to get the team to the playoffs.
Well, this guy's going to start for me for sure. I got to put him in there. And I tell you, right now, Kenny Rogers, since he's come over, what did I say? 5-0, 4-0 since he's come over to the Mets. Premonition. Next start, 5-0.
The way it's been going, you don't put it past him. 2-2 the count to Young. He's 0 for 2 with a fly out and a bounce out. We're passing out gold stars for flyouts, by the way, tonight. We have not seen a lot of them. That one golfed towards shallow center. And it's dropping quickly, not quickly enough for Darrell Hamilton. Hamilton is able to race up to it and finally retire Eric Young.
Well, another little breaking ball right there. Looked like a slider going down and away from Eric Young. First one up and in, sinker. There's a little breaking ball right there. Cutter. Away, little movement away. Same pitch, going with that cutter, that cut fastball. You want to call it a slider, that's fine. It's more like a cut fastball. And the last one was the best pitch because it was down and away, and Eric popped it up into center field. A lot of breaking balls in that sequence from Orel Hershiser to Eric Young.
Fires that one by Grzelcyk. The Dodgers only have one base runner since the Sheffield home run back in the first, and it was Grzelcyk who reached on the infield single in the 4th inning.
And Hershiser continues with the slider right there, or that cut fastball, little movement down and away. It's working this inning, so don't fix it. Stay with it. That's a curveball there. Boy, when Orel first came up, he had one of the best curveballs in all of Major League Baseball. That was really his strikeout pitch. He had a great sinker and a good overhand curve. Still does have the good one, but when he first came up, he really had a hammer.
Woof. 1 ball, 2 strikes to count to Grzelcyk.
Of course, that was the Dodger philosophy. You couldn't say slider in the Dodger organization. It was fastball, overhand curve, and changeup. When Al Campanis was the general manager here, that was not in the Dodger vocabulary. They didn't believe in sliders. Use the word cut fastball if you want, but don't say slider. And the theory is that if you make more mistakes with a slider and it's flat, it's basically the same arm slot as a fastball. If you make a mistake with a slider, it's in the same plane as the bat. If you make a mistake with a curveball, it goes from top to bottom. It changes the eyesight. Tougher for the hitter to go down and get a good curveball. And some Dodger people felt more stress on the arm than the slider.
Right back to the mound. There's Hershiser. He'll plant and throw out Grzelcyk and make it 9 consecutive Dodgers. Turned away by the former Dodger, Orel Hershiser. Still 2-1 Mets. On the anniversary of one of the best pitching duels ever, September 9th, 1965, Bob Henley and Sandy Koufax going all the way through 9 innings of baseball, only 1 hit allowed between them. Well, we flash forward, and tonight it's Orel Hershiser against Kevin Brown. 6 hits total, and only 2 earned runs total. Only one walk in the game. It's about what we thought, huh?
Absolutely. You got two great sinker ball pitchers, and they're doing exactly what we thought. They're getting a lot of ground ball outs. Each guy has made one mistake, and each guy has given up a home run. Now Roger Cedeno, he's got the corners in now, expecting a bunt with his speed. Carroll's way in at first. Got Beltry in over there at third base. So we've talked about Cedeno coming over to the Mets and what he's done. I was talking to Bobby Bonilla before the game. He came over and he said nobody thought this guy could do what he's doing, not even in the Dodger organization. Kevin Malone said the same thing to me before the game, that, you know, their internal report said that this guy was not an everyday player. Well, wrong. You know, the Dodgers have traded away a lot of good players over the years that people thought were not going to be starters, whether they be a pitcher or a regular with the Dodgers, and they've gone on to some great careers. How about Pedro Martinez?
Yeah, that would be one.
How about John Wetland? Nobody thought he could close. Oh.
A swing, a miss, and that'll do it. You've got Dodgers that have gone on to New York. Cedeno not the only one, like Piazza. Of course, Orel Hershiser has already won 12 games this year.
Well, Orel Hershiser had that arm operation many years ago, and the Dodgers thought, well, he was done. He won't be able to pitch. Well, all he did was go on to Cleveland and help them to a pennant. Go on to San Francisco, did a good job.
Pass him out.
And now with the Mets.
Second base, Eric Young. It throws it to Eric Harris for the out. Eric Young still has been very busy in this game. Kevin Brown just serving up those sinkers. And the ground balls are finding leather. This week, FX Baseball Saturday night finds us right back here. The Mets and the Dodgers again. Saturday at 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific on FX. Please watch responsibly. Hershiser loops one into right field. Base hit, or is it? Quick throw. Safe. Mondesi almost made the put out. That would have been another ground ball out, believe it or not.
9-3.
And Mondesi,
if you're scoring, right?
Mondesi has that cannon, and you could see that developing. Hershiser was getting down there just as fast as those legs could carry him.
Well, Orel's a smart player. He knows that Mondesi was in shallow. So he was busting his tail down the line as soon as he hit that ball into right field for the hit. Eric Carroll's trying to give a little help there. Orel really has to bust his tail, and he just did.
How often?
I mean, that's a tie.
How often do you see a first baseman stretching with his backside to the runner? I mean, he was stretched out towards right field.
The only guy I've seen do that, not the only guy, but the last guy I've really seen him do that well is Larry Walker. When we were with Montreal, he would do that all the time. Play shallow on guys that had no power to right field. He was playing in shallow. Mondi was, with Hershiser at the plate, so it was worth a shot, and he almost got him.
Sets it up for Ricky Henderson. Bouncing ball. Kevin Brown's going to take care of that. Henderson thrown out. And as we head to the bottom of the 7th inning, it is still the Mets 2, the Dodgers 1. And we'll take a look at what's coming your way tonight on Fox Sports News following our game. For that, we take you now to the Fox Network Center. Well, in a battle of home runs, a 2-run shot by Piazza leading the solo home run from Gary Sheffield. 2-1 Mets over the Dodgers. Orel Hershiser back to the Dodger Stadium mound, and we talked earlier about the tremendous postseason he had 11 years ago. Look at this against the Mets. The NLCS MVP. They went on in the World Series to work the magic again against the Oakland A's. Got Tony Phillips right there. And that did it.
Rick Dempsey picking Orel up. Rick Dempsey now bullpen coach for the Dodgers. And Orel's delivery 11 years ago to today, it's the same. Same delivery, same windup, hasn't changed a bit. Maybe not the same velocity, but still an outstanding pitcher.
Hershiser 1 week shy of his 41st birthday. Right here, he's got to face the man that homered against him in the first, Gary Sheffield. Slider to start him off down and outside. Sheffield, 23 runs batted in his last 19 ball games. He's got the batting average up over 300. Let me ask you this, Kevin. That bat waggle from Gary Sheffield, and that's a timing mechanism for him. What does that do to a pitcher, though? Is that distracting, seeing that out of the corner of your eye?
Not really. You know, I was just going to say something about Orel Hershiser. When you hear the word focus, Orel Hershiser has that stare. He stands straight up and down. He kind of bows that head down. He looks straight into his catcher. He's locked in on the glove. That's it. It really doesn't bother guys that have good focus, and Orel has that. He's locked in on the catcher's glove, and most catchers like to set up with their body where the catcher's glove is the center of their body. Kind of a funnel, like a target right there, like a dartboard.
That ball driven to right field. Sheffield trying to do it again. Leaping play at the wall. He got it. Wow. He got it. Cedeno robs Sheffield to keep it 2-1. You talk about homecomings, Piazza and Cedeno both. One on the offense, one on the defense, as the Mets continue to lead the game.
Did Cedeno play this perfectly or what? He's locked in on a ball. He knows exactly where the wall is, times the leap, and takes a home run away from Gary Sheffield. Look at this. Never took his eye off the baseball and definitely took a home run away from Shep. Wow. Great play. Talked about that Met defense, #1 in the National League.
We talked so glowingly about the infield, and rightly so, but it spills over into the outfield tonight. And don't think there's not a little look what you could have had from Roger Cedeno as he looks across at the third base dugout. Karros checks his swing. They'll appeal to make sure of that. Yes, he did check. Cedeno, 4 disappointing years with the Dodgers. Never did realize his potential.
But he was never given an opportunity really to play every day. You know, they never let him run bases. They put the stop sign on. He'd get thrown out, so they didn't. You know, the signs had to come from the bench. You've got a great athlete like that.
Ball tapped by Olerud, gets by Karros. Remember what happened the last time? A Dodger infielder fanned on fielding a ground ball. Kevin Brown came back, allowed a 2-run home run. And it seemed as though Grzelcyk and Brown, in the heat of battle last time, were kind of jawing with each other after the Grzelcyk error. Karros and Brown didn't look at each other after this one.
Well, it's clearly an error. A lot of top spin on this ground ball. What Eric did not do is get his chest in front of the ball and knock it down. He kind of olayed it, tried to pick it with the glove and let it go into right field. So that's been the Dodgers' problem this year. They're 9th in the league in fielding. They've got almost twice as many errors as a ball club as the Mets do. Kevin Brown. Historically, when a fielder makes an error with Kevin Brown, he tries to handle it well, but he gets frustrated because he knows he made good pitches. And the error by Grzelcyk and now the error by Karros. That's when Kevin Brown has to back off and make the kind of pitch that Orel Hershiser did.
Here comes the sequel opportunity for Mike Piazza.
And that's where you've got to pick up your defense. You know, Kevin Brown knows that his infield defense is not what the Mets is, that's for sure. And now's when he's got to make good pitches and pick up his defense. That's what a good pitcher does.
Well, back in the 6th inning, John Olerud reached on an error. Piazza followed with the long home run. Here in the 8th, Olerud has just reached on an error. And here we go again. Brown against Piazza. A lot of star power. Within 60 feet of each other here.
One thing you haven't seen Kevin do in the 3 at-bats to Piazza is pitch inside. I mean, really try to go in and knock him off the plate.
Nasty stuff. Piazza swinging up over that one.
Well,
1-2 the count.
Well, that's where you got to pitch, Mike. We saw the hot zone where he's a 240, 250 hitter if you pitch him down and get him to chase, and that's what that last pitch was. A hard sinker down in the dirt. Mike doesn't chase too many. He's a pretty patient hitter. I don't think you'll see any more high fastballs from Kevin Brown and Mike Piazza in this game.
Towards third and foul.
Yeah, that last pitch was a hanging slider.
There was a fastball up in the 6th inning that did in Brown. And he kind of held the pose there, too, didn't he?
Well, he knew he got it. Ball was up, letter high, middle in, and he smoked it. And Mike knew he hit it out as soon as it left his bat.
So here we are for part 2. Kevin Brown against Piazza. Piazza, of course, exported out of L.A. last year. Brown, the high-rent import this year. Ball knocked down by Hundley.
Kevin Brown again dropping down 3/4 sidearm to Mike Piazza. He did that twice in the last at bat before he gave up the home run on a high fastball and tried to get Mike to chase one down in the dirt.
Well, this is where we came in the 6th inning. 1 on, 1 out, 2-2 the count to Piazza. That's when he hit the home run. Takes this one. Bites down around his kneecaps. It's now full. Kevin Brown well up over 100 pitches, but the bullpen is quiet.
Little disagreement between Brown and Hundley on what to throw to Mike Piazza in this 3-2 count.
Left that one up, and Piazza fouled it this time. Boy, 9 pitches in the last at bat. 8 pitches in this at bat.
Well, these are classic battles. You got the best hitting catcher in baseball history, and you got the $105 million man, Kevin Brown, on the mound.
He swung and he missed in what would have been ball 4. But on the move was Olerud. He scoots into second base. Well, Piazza retired. Don't count out Olerud's 3rd stolen base of the year, because now he's in scoring position for Ventura.
Well, Bobby Valentine likes to run. He knows that with the 3-2 count, pretty good chance it's going to be something down in the dirt or Piazza's going to make contact. And Kevin Brown did get Mike Piazza to chase, but Olerud gets his 3rd stolen base. So that was a run and hit play. That wasn't a straight steal. That was just putting the runner in motion because it was a full count.
7 strikeouts for Brown tonight. He hangs one in on the corner, called a strike to Robin Ventura. MVP type season for Ventura. Look at those numbers.
Well, the Mets lineup is tough because you got a lot of lefty-righty balance, and that's what makes it tough to pitch to. You start with right-hander leading off Ricky Henderson, then Alfonso, and you got your 2 solid lefties at 3 and the 5 spot, Olerud and Ventura. Piazza in the middle. It's just a very tough lineup to pitch to, and they all hit to the opposite field. You don't have one guy in that lineup that's a dead pull hitter. You've really got to work both sides of the plate against this whole lineup.
Pass him out, solely to short. Grudzielanek unloads, and they got him. Kevin Brown works out of it. The error didn't hurt him this time. Bottom of the 8th, Mondesi will lead it off against Hershiser, with the Mets in front 2-1. In L.A., the game summary brought to you by Afram. A sampler platter. Pick your pleasure here, Mr. Kennedy. What jumps out at you?
I think right here, Orel Hershiser keeping it to 2 hits in his 7 innings. Obviously, the Piazza home run is big, but Orel's been outstanding. He's not pitching like a 41-year-old, that's for sure.
Orel has retired 12 consecutive Dodgers, 19 of the last 20. The only man to reach since the 1st inning was Grudzielanek. He led off the 4th with an infield single. Other than that, nothing.
But Bobby Valentine does indeed, as we talked about, have the bullpen going right behind Orel. He's pitched a great game. Billy Taylor, the right-hander, came over from Oakland. And you got Dennis Cook, the left-hander.
Mondesi, a home run threat, takes down and outside. Now there were some home run threats up in the bottom of the 7th who just missed. Gary Sheffield robbed at the wall by Cedeno. Karras yanked one just foul.
Raul Mondesi has a .245 batting average, but he does have 28 home runs. But he is so far from home plate that you try to pitch him away. He not only sets up far from home plate, but when he strides with his left foot, he opens up and strides toward the third base side, which means it makes him very vulnerable to outside pitches if you have good location.
High drive, left center field. Everybody's running back there. Ricky Henderson with Hamilton, and Hamilton makes the catch. Mondesi didn't miss by much.
No, he didn't. That's why you've got to stay away from him. He really opens up with that front foot. Now, Raul just did miss that one. Got underneath that one. That front hip, boy, and he just missed one. Orel looking straight up in the air saying, please stay in here. I've pitched in Dodger Stadium before, says Orel. I know that air is heavy. That's not going out.
Here's Devon White. He takes outside. Still not quite to 90 pitches as Orel Hershiser. And we remind you, he hasn't had a complete game effort since July of '97. Beautiful pitch right on the outside edge.
That's that curveball. Orel Hershiser, a little back door right there, 76 miles an hour. He's still got the curve. Oh.
Yes, he does. The breaking stuff has been singing and dancing for Hershiser here in the middle to late innings.
Back-to-back curveballs to Devon White. Called by Mike Piazza. Look at the bottom fall out of this. Right over the top.
Now a little roller right back to Hershiser. And he can make it 14 in a row. He's retired. 21 out of 22. Folks, this week on the Fox Saturday Baseball Game of the Week, two bitter rivals get together. The Red Sox look to stay on top in the wild card race. They'll take on the playoff-bound Yankees. There's also other regional action. It all starts with In the Zone on your local Fox television station. The American League wild card race looks like this. And, of course, the Mets concerned about the National League wild card race. The Reds have already won today. They beat the Chicago Cubs, taking 4 out of 5 in that series.
Good races, though, in Major League Baseball this year, aside from the Sammy Sosa-McGuire race, which we saw a year ago, and happening again this year. Just great races in Major League Baseball, particularly the wild card. Dave Wallace going out there. Just give Orel a little time. 92 pitches, 60 strikes. That's outstanding. 2-to-1 strike to ball ratio. But, you know, we're down to those final 4 outs. Orel Hershiser, not a kid anymore. Dave Wallace wants to make sure there's no mistakes being made right here. Look at that. 14 in a row, as Josh said. 21 of the last 22 batters. So that's just Dave Wallace going out there. Give him a little breather. Make sure the bullpen's good and ready. If Beltre does get on and the pinch hitter comes up, you may see Bobby Valentine make a move. He's not going to let Orel Hershiser lose this game as well as he's thrown.
And it's funny, too, Kevin. On 9/9/99, everybody looking forward, talking about the millennium and all that. Here's Orel Hershiser getting us looking back in time tonight as he comes to Dodger Stadium.
And he's throwing like he did 11 years ago.
Absolutely. Crank towards second base. It's not going to get by Alfonso. No, sir. 15 in a row retired by the Bulldog. Orel Hershiser. 22 out of 23. We're at the end of 8. The Piazza home run still